Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. It's Sunday, so I'm going to shoot some samples. And I got a whole pack of samples from the Whisky Heathens. So today we're going to talk about a Canadian whiskey from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And Josh from the Heathens sent me 3 samples here. Sent me more, but these 3 are all from Stumbletown Distillery. We've got a Lentil Whiskey, a Quinoa Whiskey, and then a triple barrel that I know has some oats in it. So one of the cool things that caught my eye about this distillery is their exploration, their unique trial of different grains. And I actually have a whole bottle of triple barrel because I too was driving through Saskatchewan, never heard of this, saw this on the shelf, it's the only one I saw, and immediately bought it because I had to try it. So if you have any craft whiskey, small distillery whiskey, unique grain whiskey, that's the kind of thing you should pour. And when you come back, we'll talk lentil, quinoa, and triple barrel with oats whiskey from Stumbletown out of Saskatchewan. 3, 4. Thanks for joining me or coming back. It's so funny that I stumbled on Saskatchewan because there's a song in my head about you being proud of being a Canadian, and you can say Saskatchewan without starting to stumble, which I can. I don't know why that happened. So this is going to be, I've got a bottle here, and I'll do a bottle shot now, but it's not the first whiskey I want to try. So, Stumbletown in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, small distillery, little bar there. Is really, trying to make a name for themselves, to make a mark for themselves, and they've clearly done that with some unique releases. That's not the bottle I want to talk about first, but I just kind of wanted to give you an image. It's kind of a neat logo they've designed. This is lentil whiskey, quinoa whiskey, and then a triple barrel with some oat. Pretty creative stuff. Samples came from the Heathens. If you've never watched the Heathens, go there. They are hilarious. They're way funnier than I am. And it's always 5 o'clock in their headquarters. So lentil whiskey, all I know about it, to be whiskey in Canada, it's got to be aged 3 years minimum. So it's at least 3 years old. It has lentil, but also malted barley is sort of the base spirit, I'm told. I don't know the cask on this lentil one. Well, let's see. Nose and taste. Oh, that is interesting. Citrusy. Little bit malty, grainy, but not grainy in a bad way. I know that's often a criticism of, certainly when I'm talking about scotches, it's kind of young and a lot more grain in the blend than malt, but I'm trying to describe a cereal note. Heathens mentioned that you might catch it like a rye, and I would say I could agree with that, as they were saying, but not quite a rye. And it's not very spicy for me on the nose anyways. This is 45%. Don't remember if I said that. But I do get like a lemon balm, not balm, like a lemongrass, lemon, accent kind of thing. Yeah, well, let's try it on the palate. Cheers. Well, that was creative. There I do get a little spice, a little cracked pepper. The lemon subsides, and I feel like, now that's a split pea soup, but I feel a little bit like I've just had some of that, the big yellow can split pea and ham soup. So it's got a little bit of savory from the ham, and it's got quite a bit of lentil notes to it, which surprisingly works quite well with the malt background. Definitely echoes of that habitant soup. Wow. Try a little sip. So that's unique. It's nice though. It's pleasant in the palate, little, youthful and bitey and spicy, but nothing that puts me off. For me, it's not bitter. For me, it's not mechanical. It's not, all of those things that make me not really want to try another sip. Instead, it's creative. It's interesting. It has echoes of that Habiton split pea soup. Crazy. Okay, trying their Quinoa whiskey. On their site now, this one does say, again, malted barley and quinoa, but it also says it's been aged in virgin oak. I didn't find the casking for the lentil. So this, really all the same, 45%. Some kind of mix of malted barley and the grain they're focusing on here, which is quinoa, but this one does say virgin oak. Wildly different nose. Their tasting notes are chocolate and coffee, but I'm struggling with this. This is more relaxed, subtle, has faded into that nice light citrus and malt. I am struggling. I can't think of a whiskey note nose. This is a little pine, a little resin, but that's not quite it. It's like rice. Yeah, kind of that sticky rice. And a bit of mechanical water note on that. Okay, we'll try it on the palate. Cheers. Okay, that's dominated by really a grain note and texture. Whatever would be a mix of grains, a Harvest Crunch cereal, granola. I'm still going with rice. I get quite a bit of just plain white rice, but a sticky rice. A lot of that type of note in here. Okay, there in the finish, distinct chocolate notes. Absolutely. Distinct milk chocolate, a little bit of dark chocolate too, and it's really holding on in the finish. I didn't get it in the nose, didn't get it in the palate. I know they were suggesting it as a tasting note, but it absolutely hit in the longer finish. Another quick sip. It's settled out a little bit more. The second sip, I get a little more malt, some of the barley notes in there, which I'm more used to in a whiskey. At first, up front, and the chocolate is building for sure. So now I might be able to enjoy this, but I will say the nose up front and the first sip had me thinking this is truly unique, and for the very adventurous of us who would want to try a quinoa whiskey. But the finish is actually quite good and going on and on. I'm gonna have to take an extra minute clearing my palate so I can do a fair job with the next one coming up. So the last one is the one that I grabbed a bottle of when I was driving through Saskatchewan, and this is Triple Barrel Whiskey from Stumbletown. I'll give you another bottle shot here. This is a stronger percentage, so we're at 51% ABV, and it mentions that it's in a bourbon style mash, but then it goes on to say it's got purple corn and oats aged separately in French oak and then brought back together to age and finish in a Merlot cask. And that concept of aging grains separately and then blending them in a finishing cask is a lot more Canadian than bourbons are done down south. But this is really dark, really, really dark. And to have spent 3 years, purple corn and oats in French oak, and then some amount of time, I don't know, no, I don't think it tells me, in Merlot casks, explains why I think this is natural color, and it is really dark on the nose. Now these are flavors that I'm more used to nosing, unlike the quinoa one here. This is full berry, full stewed blackberry, raspberry. It's so full of fruit. It's almost like grape juice, grape notes, like, when you've really got not an awful lot, but like a significant amount of cask influence, The nose is very, very full of that red fruit. Swimming around in there, there are some coffee, some espresso. And then it fades down into almost a bit of a malt that I can get in each one of these. So a bit of a barley note. All right, let's try on the palate. Cheers. Palate has a lot to offer. There's just a wild amount of Merlot wine influence. But there's also some nuttiness in here and definite oak quality, more espresso, more coffee. And then we come back to the Merlot influence. I actually have seen only a few videos from these guys. Love the presentation of the bottle and happy I bought this. Very interesting walkthrough here. Probably my favorite up here might be in alignment with the Heathens. I can't remember if they said this, is this lentil. I wanted to really like this triple barrel. Pretty cool that it's got some oats in here and some corn, and I like French oak, although it can be heavy. Merlot, I'm okay with wine influence. I feel like this is got a lot of cask influence. And this is kind of similar to a number of craft distilleries that, you know, when they come out with a rye, it's pretty good. And then they come out with this heavier barrel touch. There's several of them that are kind of kicking around in here that I think make it flavorful, but this is so rich and so fruit forward. It drinks almost like a really strong cocktail. So it's not bad. Flavors are good. But it's not really what I'm going for when I'm looking for sipping a whiskey neat. I would build this and go, wow, try this out. What do you think of that? Because it is good flavor. But in terms of a whiskey, this has a massive amount of cask influence on it. Like just a ton. Still, flavors are pretty good. So what do I think of Stumbletown overall? You know, I've had this bottle kicking around and I'm only going to give it about a 3.5 stars because I really think they need to dial in the flavor and cask influence, but still well done. These other ones, they're samples. I shouldn't rate them. I'm pretty interested in this lentil one. It's kind of neat. The quinoa, the chocolate finish was wonderful. If they could take pieces of that and move it around and get that chocolate finish on a few other whiskeys, now that would be interesting. Thanks again to the Heathens. Again, check them out if you haven't, for sending me some samples. Now I got to do my part for sure and figure out how to get you guys something from my deck that you might not have. Thanks for joining me. You guys have a great week.